Our NBA Finals matchup for the season is finally set, with the Indiana Pacers taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder in this year's finals. The Thunder came in as one of the favorites to win it all this year, whereas the Pacers, who had a deep playoff run, were still an underdog to make it to the finals and find themselves as an underdog for this series. Today, we're going to go over my personal predictions for how I think this series is going to go and who I think is going to win Finals MVP. Starting off, I want to talk about the top three players in each team, at least in my opinion, when it comes to the importance for this series. Obviously for OKC, we know it's Shea, their MVP. We know it's J-Dub, their All-NBA player, and we know it's Chet Holmgren, their best big. For the Pacers, obviously we know Tyrese Haliburton and we know Pascal Siakam, and I honestly think Aaron Nesmith is the third most important and third best player for the Pacers. I honestly think that the success of this team is going to run through how well Aaron Nesmith plays. I think if he has a really good series, they're going to have a really good fighting chance, but if the moment's too big for him in his young career, then this is going to get ugly for the Pacers. I think all three of these guys for OKC are more than ready, and this is a young team that can run it back if the moment's too big for these guys. But like I said, this series is going to run through these top three guys. I think for the Pacers, Miles Turner is very important, and I put him as one of my top three role players for the Pacers, as well as Benedict Mathurin and Obi Toppin. And as for OKC, Isaiah Hartenstein, Alex Caruso, and Lou Dort. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein is just as important to this team, another really solid big. But Alex Caruso and Lou Dort, your two defensive guards, are going to set the tone defensively for this team. They are some of the most important players, some of the most important role players. They're not the stars of this team, but they're the engine that makes this team run defensively. For Indiana, I think Miles Turner is almost as important as Aaron Nesmith. If he's having a really good series, it's going to turn out very well for Indiana. I think Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin playing well within their roles is going to be very important, and if Benedict Mathurin can have a game or two where he goes off, Indiana is going to be very, very successful in those games. I also think Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins are going to be pretty important for OKC as well. Bottom rotation guys, but they're just as talented. They're guys that could get very legit rotation minutes on other teams, potentially even start on some NBA teams. Instead, they're end of bench guys for OKC, and they can make the difference in this series. As for Indiana, I could see TJ McConnell also being pretty important to this team. Obviously, we know what TJ McConnell brings to the table. I think Andrew Nembhard, also a very important player for Indiana. Two guys that are rounding out their rotation as well. Obviously, OKC is much deeper, and they have a lot of talent that really hasn't even gotten playoff minutes compared to Indiana. Indiana really just has these 7 or 8 guys, but these are really good matchups in my opinion. I personally think OKC is going to win in 6, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win Finals MVP. He's going to be the first MVP to win a championship and Finals MVP in a good amount of time. It has been a while since we've had an MVP win a championship. Obviously, both these teams, it's been a while since they've appeared in a finals. OKC, it was the early 2010s, and for the Indiana Pacers, it was the early 2000s. Two teams that are hungry and want this. I think they both have chances to be here again next year, and OKC is going to win in 6, and I think they're going to start the next cycle of super teams. This team can just get rid of talent and reload. Obviously, the salary cap is going to ruin them, but really, you have those couple names in SGA and J-Dub and potentially even Chet that you have your core, and now the rest of the guys, you really could trade those guys for a pick or two, and you have 2 or 3 picks to swing at and get a new Lou Dort. And I really see OKC running the next couple years, if not the next decade of the NBA with this strategy. Sam Presti has them in the perfect situation to win now and win later. I mean, like I said, they have so many contracts coming up. They can afford to lose those guys if they don't feel like paying them, because they can trade them. They have very good value, and they have the picks to take multiple swings to try and replace them. As for how I think it's going to go, I think OKC is going to jump out to a 2-0 lead and hold down home court, and then Indiana is going to match with both their home games. That Indiana crowd is different, just like OKC. And ultimately, I think OKC is going to win Game 5 back at home and then finish this out on the road in 6. I'm playing it a little safe, having the home team win the first 5 games, but I think both teams, the energy that their fans are going to bring, it's going to be such an advantage for home court. And this is going to be a fun series. It isn't the matchup that is going to get the highest ratings. We don't have a New York, we don't have an LA, but for pure basketball fans, this is going to be an awesome series. And one thing I want to talk about is that this series to me proves that the NBA is hands off and this isn't a league that rigs itself, because you think of the storylines they could have created, you think of the teams they could have had in here. Obviously you have the Luka trade halfway through the season. You could have had LA in the finals, they lose in the first round. You could have had the Knicks, who are having a resurgence, in the finals. They made it to the conference finals, and guess what? They made a big trade with Minnesota, who's also in the conference finals. Minnesota, New York in the finals. That is something that I wanted to personally see, and that's such a storyline they could have had, but instead we get stuck with OKC and Indiana, stuck with, of course, because these are two smaller markets. And that just proves to me that the NBA isn't one of these leagues that's rigged. Obviously, they're dealing with some of those allegations again, per usual, because the Dallas Mavericks got the #1 pick and got Cooper Flag. But like I said, there's so many narratives they could have gone with. You have a lot of aging stars that you could have forced them to get their last ring towards the end of their year. You could have forced that narrative. You could have had a Wemby in the Spurs. Obviously, Wemby got hurt, but that team could have been a lot more competitive early in the year if you wanted to push that narrative to find a new face of the league. I mean, even out east, you have Boston. You could start a back-to-back. You could have started a new dynasty in Boston. When Boston's good, the NBA does well. Just like how when LA's good, the NBA does well. We could have had an LA Boston. We didn't get that, but instead we get OKC Indiana, and this is just going to be pure basketball, and it's awesome. I think that this proves right here, without a doubt, that the NBA is not rigged. It's something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I'll probably make a completely separate video talking about this in detail, but I think this is a really good matchup for the NBA. Even if it's not big markets, I think that instead of trying to force big markets and trying to rig it, they're just going to allow it to play out, and now you get to see two really good fan bases at the top of the league, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. This is the new era of basketball, no doubt. I see the Thunder as winning this and starting the new standard. I think if Indiana wins this, it's going to continue this era of parity, but I honestly think that the Thunder are too good, and it's going to start their super team. And this is a team that's homegrown, dang near super team. And obviously SGA was traded from the Clippers, and Tyrese Halliburton, by the way, was traded from the Kings. These are both two teams that their star players were not homegrown. I believe this is like the first or second time ever that both teams' best players were not homegrown, at least who's considered their best players. Obviously, since that's somewhat subjective, I don't know if that's a complete truth, but I know it's very rare that both teams are not homegrown, and yet OKC outside of SGA is very homegrown. J-Dub they've drafted, Chet Holmgren they've drafted, Lou Dort they've drafted, traded for Caruso, signed Hardenstein, but the rest of that deep bench, Aaron Wiggins they drafted, Mason Wallace they drafted, and they have so many guys that haven't even gotten legit minutes. And all of these guys, if they want big money, they can go get it elsewhere, and they can replace them with more picks. I see OKC being dominant in the next 10 years. So OKC in 6 is what I'm rolling with. I'd be more than happy to be right. I'd be more than happy to be wrong. But I think Shea is winning his first championship and sets the tone for the next decade of the NBA. Let me know your thoughts below. And thank you for watching.